off script this week then from the Everton dugout with two guys who I don't think spent too much time sat here. Maybe Louis more than Tim, is that fair, Louis?
I could say, yeah.
Tim, I thought we'd start with Everton's new signing. Tell us about him.
Okay, yeah, it's very proud for me as a father. I think the biggest thing for me retiring was my children first of all, and my son Shay is lucky enough to be part of the Everton Academy, and I think for me as a father it's more just about helping him follow his dreams, and he'll understand the pitfalls and the dedication, the sacrifice he needs to put in, but lo and behold it's a great platform for him as a young man.
Louis, you're a father as well, I think. Any boys involved in the game?
Yes, one is 13, and what I want is to make sure that he enjoy and understand the actual commitment that you have to do for this game and for the sport and all the value that that sport can bring to your life. It's the most important thing for a father.
I just wanted to bring up something that Tim, yourself and we were talking about with Martin Tyler about the pressure of a name like being a Cahill, being a Saha, having a dad who's had that big career. What is that like, Louis?
I think it's not super easy to actually put that as a good baggage. Like you can use it in some good ways, but you have to really like put yourself in a mode of like trying to improve yourself. It's like as a human being. That's not about like the name or something like this. You have to really be focused on your qualities, on even like the setbacks. Use them as like a tool to actually improve yourself. That's it.
Is that a concern for you, Tim?
No, it's not a concern, because for me I want what's best for my children, and that's to be a good father and teach them good values like Louis said. The big thing is simplifying it for them, understanding the concept of being a footballer, your dedication, your mindset. What you put in is what you'll get back, and even if you don't see the rewards, which you won't as a youngster, because it's all about the growth, the maturation and things like this, but his application to training, his mindset, not only to training but also to school, will set him apart. Because for me, I focused on the basics, and when you have so many eyes looking at you, you do the basics well, and then after that we'll see where it takes him. But there's no pressure for me as a father, but when you choose to be a footballer, that's something, a responsibility that you decided, and if you don't, then there's levels that you can play out, because England's such an amazing place to play football.
Louis, to change pace a little bit, I just wanted to bring up with you something that Gary Neville said a few weeks ago, that with Ruud van Nistelrooy at Manchester United, obviously he had an amazing record, great player for the club, but I think Gary actually felt that the team was almost stronger with you in it. So were you aware of the team maybe thinking that, and why would that be, that a change of player, almost replacing a player with such a good goal record, makes the team stronger? It's a strange one.
Yeah, it's something that yes, it's up to the squad and the philosophy of the team and the way Sir Alex Ferguson was playing. And I understand that I had my qualities, and I could like really embrace that every game, because yes, so many like profile were forwards, and it was like very competitive there. But I knew that I had like something that a bit that other players didn't have, and what I could say, I was a bit more a linker, so someone who can like really bring people's in, and more like someone who can adapt to certain games. And you have to look at the quality of Cristiano Ronaldo or Wayne Rooney. Those guys were young, but they were so much quality out there. Sometimes when you have like maybe a character who's like actually asking maybe all the balls and having like all that kind of attention, yeah, it was like maybe sometimes a bit harder for them to develop. So those youngsters. So I had maybe that profile to actually bring them a bit more together, and that's the decision of the manager. And I thought that it was like very something that yes, I was very proud of. But it was down to more about like the actual, the way you complete kind of force forward than quality, because I mean, like as a striker with Van Nistelrooy was just amazing.
Do you have guys like that here at Everton, Tim, maybe who would not score so many goals as another guy, but benefited the team?
I think you talk about Louis and the comment Gary Neville made when he first signed for Everton. The players were so excited for him to pick us, and you knew having a player on the pitch that could link, like he said, but the pace, power, and the threat that he put into the defenders. I always used to use we call him King at Everton because that's his nickname, but I always used to use Louis as someone that I could get space. So wherever he was, he could attract two defenders. I could always benefit off his movement, and then understand being sometimes a third man runner, playing into him, understanding I knew it was going to go wide and then making the box. But left foot, right footed, we had this discussion earlier. I couldn't tell you whether he's left footed or right footed, and that's a compliment in the factor that he could finish with both parts, both feet. And just, you've always got players, if we had Felly here at the time, sometimes not score many goals, but could bring so many players in. And we were midfielders that got transitioned into strikers. We couldn't afford to buy players, and then we had to make do. So throughout, there's so many players that work that way. But back then, in that time, we played for the team. We didn't play for ourselves, and we had to fill holes and fill gaps. And and if you don't score, it didn't matter because the fans knew what the badge meant to them, and to work hard and do well for the club.
So do you think for you, with your game, like a goal-scoring midfielder, sometimes actually played up front, harder to play with like a 20-goal-a-season man, a more selfish striker, if I can use that word?
I don't mind selfish strikers. The best thing about selfish strikers is they're going to score. You have to feed them and you have to give them that appetite for them to finish. Understanding players' attitudes and emotions and playing to them. And that's why you win or lose games, by not feeding the ball. But for me, I play anywhere. I played over 200 games here, and it was an absolute pleasure. And all I thought of first was working hard for the team. And my goals come because of my fitness, because of my mentality, because I knew I'd get chances. With the way that we played, we always got the ball wide. We always penetrated in behind. And I reaped the rewards because of my constant effort to want to score. To be the finisher, and if not, to be the provider. But the defending was just as important as the attacking. We took great pride on set plays, the way we set up, the line, the distances in between, defending free kicks. And I think that was the ethos then, is we defend just as well as we attack, and from our defending basis, we can go and get a 1-0 win and things like that.
So just to pull up something Tim said earlier, King. That's a nice nickname, isn't it?
Not bad, yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I think I always appreciate the nickname, but I never use it myself because I think
it would be weird, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be. But yes, it's nice because it means like kind of respect in a way that I work always hard and be very honest with the people I've been working with. So that's very. A symbol of how committed I was as a player. But just to come back on the point of like a striker, and when I see Tim and his career, and people were like looking at maybe a hard worker and very talented head of the ball, and he scored some amazing goals. But I was like always very impressed by the actual desire that he had to score goals, whatever he can say, like he wanted to defend. I had no such quality. I was a striker, but I was more forward. Every training session that we had and we play in front of the goal, this guy was obsessed. He wanted to connect well. He wanted to hit the net in a certain way. He wanted to make sure that every opportunity, because there is a part of his game where you have to work really hard. He had to commit and do the nearly 12K a game, But you have to be really focused. And to do that, you have to work really hard. And if his son obviously watch all his game, they will have obviously hopefully pick up that thing. It's like, if one thing you have to remember, you have to have that drive, and this is that commitment that is not easy to actually I would say teach. It's like better into a right example.
Did you ever think to change your game to be more like that, or that kind of Tim Cahill, I don't know, Frank Lampard type of thing of burst into the box? Do you just have it or not have it? Can you not learn it?
Yes. What happens is, like, I think in life you have like some, I don't know how you call it in English, but a declic, something like make you tick and make you realize that you have to do the extra mile, the extra, concentration, whatever is like the ball hit the goalkeeper or the post, you have to react in certain ways. These things came later. I didn't have that when I played, but I was helped by the training session that I had with Van Nistelrooy. All those guys were like animal in front of the goal. And when I see this, it's like, if I don't do that, I'm not going to play. that's the actual standard that those guys week in week out like put me in front of my eyes. And when I see that the same when I see a team, and there is like a few players that you cross in your career, Yakubu had this, and it's like natural. Sometimes the ball even like come back to them for some reason.
You don't know why.
I don't know why. So this is a special thing, and for me, I would have like say it's a kind of a mojo. A mojo is like some kind of motivation, make you do the extra things. You don't feel the pain. Tim Cahill was used to play games where he was pretty much like his broken leg. He would still play. This is mojo. And when these things go, I think it's really hard. So I credit to him.
I think because you two have got places to be, we should finish with the Louis Saha quiz, because you had an unbelievable career. Actually, I think better than people realise. And you were saying, we were just at pitch side a second ago, basically everyone forgets one of the clubs you played for. So Tim, are we going to have a go?
Of course, that's why we call him King. We didn't forget when we signed him. That's the biggest thing is his career, the goals and the impact that he had to teams. He won so many things, and for us to had that at that time, Phil Neville, Tim Howard, when they come to Everton, we embrace them. Like we wanted the most out of them because we knew they were going to make us better.
Okay, so to finish then, can you name all the clubs Louis played for? Let's stick with Premier League, shall we? So what, Mets and Lazio at the end?
Yes.
Yes. So go on. In English clubs.
Obviously Everton, Spurs. Someone told me this morning because I forgot about it.
You didn't know, did you?
Oh, I decided to forget about it. Newcastle, obviously Manchester United, Fulham.
Correct.
That's it.
Missing one, isn't he?
Yes, he did.
It doesn't matter. All I know is he played. Yeah, I know he played for Everton. Go on.
Go on, Louis. Give him a clue.
Very close to Newcastle.
You play for Sunderland as well.
Yes,
Did you? Wow.
Some list though, that, isn't it?
It's amazing. It's a credit to him, his journey, and the clubs and the places that he scored, his record. Everywhere he goes, everyone knows him, and that's why he's exceptional character and person, and he deserves all the credit.
Okay, so from Tim Cahill and the King, that's it for Off Script.